Δεν θα μιλήσω ελληνικά γιατί κανείς δεν θα με καταλαβαίνει. Εκτός αν θέλετε να πάρετε το ρίσκο από αυτό. You think stray dogs are a problem? Try Africa, we've got stray lions. Okay, the other campaign that you spoke about was the Forever campaign, which I also wrote, and I just want to just say a couple of words about that. By the way, that picture was taken in my mother's garden. There's the Give Greece a Chance campaign, which was designed to do precisely inject some positive messaging into Europe. Nothing more. Ran for 2 days, privately financed. This other little thing over here, we live in a country called Forever. I was sick in bed a week ago, and I started fiddling around on the computer, and I came up with this idea over here. It says, hello, when you need a break from this crazy world, come home for a few days and refresh your spirit. Something from home will go back with you deep inside you, and it's yours to keep forever. With love, Greece. And at the bottom, instead of signing it Greece, I put the word forever, okay? I put that online, and I shared it with people. And this is now hanging in shop windows around the country. So it's not a campaign. I'm just sharing stuff, right? They call me Mr. Yinete these days because I like to share positive things because I feel that we should be positive about things, okay? I just want to make some definitions here. A lot of people define themselves as being in the branding business, and what they do is they do logos. That's not branding, okay? In fact, the word brand comes from those things that you burn animals with to identify which farm they come from, right? Much like a tattoo, right? That is not a brand. That's a logo, okay? That is a brand. Okay? That is a brand. And that's a brand because she knows that everything she does and everything she does, everything she says and everything she does not say and everything she does and everything she does not do communicates. That is a brand. Okay? So there's a huge difference. Countries are not soft drinks. I know that. But I think that there are lessons which come out of iPhones when they ring. Hello? It's my mom, excuse me a sec. There are lessons which come out of branding which are very, very important. And I think that we should apply them when we deal with places, with cities, with regions, with continents, with countries, with the planet, should we ever have the need to brand the planet. You can replace the word brand with the word reputation, because that's what a brand is. It's what people think of you. It's very simple. This over here is a logo designed by Milton Glaser in 1977, a very famous logo. I'm a great fan of Milton Glaser's work, so I love that logo, okay? But that's just a logo. In context, it becomes part of New York, okay? And that's a particularly good logo for a simple reason, because there are millions of New Yorkers living there, and it expresses something they all feel about that city. New Yorkers are passionate about New York, okay? So that's why that is a good logo. But it's simply a tool in the bigger thing called branding, and this is a very good use of a tool. So there's that logo. Here's another tool, and it's one that I really enjoy criticizing because it's so easy to criticize. Those 9 circles, when I first saw that, I thought, well, maybe there are islands. And then to my horror, I read that those are the 9 strategies of the Greek National Tourism Organization. I ask you with tears in my eyes. Brand is what people think of you. Nothing more, nothing less. Branding is very different. Branding is the process of managing what people think of you. A brand is nothing more than the set of impressions that lives in people's heads. Your head, my head, everybody's head. And what we do as branding specialists is we look at these dots, right? We break the picture down and we reconnect those dots. And we reconnect those dots to create a universally powerful, motivating, cohesive, consistent, and compelling narrative, brands are stories, which guides behavior and shapes image. Branding, by the way, is not advertising and brochures. Branding is everything. These narratives should tell a story about who we are, where we come from, where we're going, why we do what we do, and how we do it. And I think the Dundee example is great. Resurrecting those statues is just magic. It's part of the story of Dundee. It's a common brand narrative. That's what you need to create when you talk about branding. I did some work on the Seychelles probably about 10 years ago. By the way, the copy at the top says high-rise buildings 0.00007%, American fast food chain 0.0001%, noisy Harley-Davidsons 0.002%, and men in leopard skin G-strings 0.005%. As pure as it gets. Seychelles at the time was a 5-star destination, stunningly beautiful, with 3-star facilities. We did this campaign, right, as part of a bigger branding exercise, okay, to attract better properties to the island. Today it is loaded with Four Seasons, Ritz-Carlton, and the best hotels in the world. It's become a 5-star destination with 7-star facilities, okay? This was a tool in the bigger thing called branding. Branding does not mean let's go and advertise. Greece has done some brilliant storytelling over the years. Unfortunately, Greece has not been very consistent with its storytelling. I'll go back to 1987, where a brilliant Greek-American ad guy called George Lois did a campaign called I'm Going Home to Greece. You had, for example, Peter Ustinov on camera saying, my parents emigrated from the Ukraine. I'm going home this summer to Greece. And you got it. You understood the story. And this whole notion of home, on the one side, is the embracing mother, but it's also suggests, without shouting about it, the mother of civilization, which is a residue which exists inside everybody's head about Greece. A second narrative, which I'm a little biased with this one, but I've got to say it, I think it's good. I did it. Chosen by the Guards, which was back in 1991, and my favorite headline was, thank God she left the light on. I found this image of the Acropolis with the sun just breaking through the clouds onto it, and I wrote that headline. Unfortunately, what GNTO, the Greek National Tourism Organization, does is they change campaigns every 2-3 years, depends on elections. Every few years they change, okay? And I think this is the big reason why branding should not be considered political. It is not. It is cultural. It belongs to everybody. There's no uber god of branding who's going to be voted into power and tell us who we're going to be for the next 2 years. I don't buy that. We've changed our logo 16 times since 1990. That's nuts. Coca-Cola hasn't changed it once. Athens 2004 was the most brilliant story I've ever seen any nation ever tell. And I want to read this quote from a journalist who said, the most beautiful and moving opening ceremony in Olympic history. This spectacular event told the story of a country steeped in pride for its remarkable cultural heritage, a country which has made an incredible contribution to modern civilization. The ceremony captured the Greek joy of life, the soul, heart, and spirit of a newly transformed modern nation. It gave vision for the future. It gave Greece a role in the modern world. It was beautiful, whoever saw it. It was stunning. It was great storytelling. It was broadcast to hundreds of millions of people around the world through a facility called the International Broadcasting Center. That's a shopping mall today. I'm not kidding. Greece is one of the greatest brands that's never been branded. But that's not the subject for today. I want to talk to you about open source branding, branding that comes out of the box. I've been doing some work for the city of Limassol in Cyprus, and this has been, for me, it's been an incredible journey. And I want to describe this project to you, because every step along the way, it's just been so innovative. right? And it's opened up, certainly in my mind, brand new horizons on how to approach the whole issue and the subject of branding. Let me give you a bit of background. Brands are normally created through research, combined with insight, vision, creativity to create a relevant, meaningful, compelling, and motivating proposition. That's what we do. But because brands are communicating everything you say and do, and because there's usually more than one you involved, in this case there are 11 million yous in this country, and very much yous, we know that, very independent people, internal alignment is mission critical. If you don't sell the brand internally, it is nothing. And that applies to a city, it applies to a country, it applies to a company, it applies to a family. It's called common values that hold us together. It's the glue that makes us function as a unit, okay? Brand strategists normally work in isolation. Their primary contact with consumers coming from the sterile and limited environment of focus groups. The issue is how many consumers can you involve? Each group consists of about 8 people, by the way, and costs about 3,000 euros. Technology has created large online gathering places like Facebook, Twitter, and the online forums where the process of research and development and alignment happen simultaneously. It's the Café Neon on steroids. And it's a brand strategist's dream. It's back to the coffee shop, okay? Think about the coffee shop. In the coffee shop, we liked things, we shared things, we commented on things. We passed things along, right? It was a big dialogue. Facebook is a coffee shop. It's a Café Neon. The Limassol branding project, that, by the way, is the project logo, because this was actually used within society. I felt the need to brand it before I took it out there. So the project had a brand. This is a one-of-a-kind project. I'm not aware of anything that's been done quite like this. First of all, it was a private initiative. I was approached by 5 leading businessmen from the city of Limassol who felt the strong need as leading members of the business community to do something about the brand called Limassol. It then became a public-private partnership, and I think that that was great because it's an unfortunate reality that our institutions are very often lagging behind, especially in this open, connected world, and it's much better to get really good private partners on board, start to form the project, and then sell it to institutions, okay? It's very difficult for the mayor of a city not to join a project that is starting to take form and which is obviously happening in front of him. It's very difficult to avoid it. The third thing is corporate sponsorship. Corporations are very willing to get involved in this kind of project in my experience. And the fourth and most important is community engagement. Involve the entire community. The objective was to establish Limassol as one of the top destination cities in the Mediterranean for internal and external tourism, for conventions, business, financial, investment, and for residential. Okay? By the way, Cyprus is beautifully located geopolitically. It's 30 minutes from Israel and the Middle East. You've got a huge issue, obviously, with Turkey, which is very close to. It's the most eastern part of the European Union, so it's just perfectly placed. Financially, very good tax system, very good banking system, highly developed. I always call them Greeks with roundabouts because of the English occupation there, or the English rule. These guys have actually got roundabouts. A roundabout in Greece gets holes in the middle before long because you drive straight through, you know what I mean? So I had to connect the dots. So I was looking for these dots before I could connect them. And the question that I normally ask is, I will say to somebody, what's the first word you think of when you think of your city? And when I asked that question about Limassol, overwhelmingly, the answer was the sea. Okay? Overwhelmingly. Anybody been to Limassol here? Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. Now, that's not a big deal because the planet is 70% water, right? I mean, like New York, I don't think of the sea, right? Even Cape Town, which is, you know, where I'm from, you know, I don't think of the sea, I think of other things. But there's something unique about Limassol. It's the relationship between the people and the city and the sea. And that's where the magic starts to happen. Do you see how the dots start to connect, right? Sea's one dot, people, city. You start to connect them. Now, just to understand this relationship, that's Limassol there, and the city runs all the way along this coastline here. Okay? And it goes, that's a highway which kind of like cuts the city off. It's a very long, narrow city. It's 24 kilometers basically by 1 kilometer in height. So you always have got contact with the sea. The other thing about it's a city of mixed neighborhoods. Tourist, residential, commercial, business, and educational all merge into each other, right? There's no kifisia in Limassol. Everything is like together. Somebody described it to me like a string of pearls, and I think that's actually a beautiful description, right? It's just like this wonderful string of pearls along the sea. And people I spoke to, I'd hear this following kind of statements. I swim every day, summer and winter, and this is very common down there, you hear it a lot. I get off the highway early just to see the sea, even though it takes me 30 minutes longer to get to work. I cycle along the beachfront to work. I bought this property because of the view it has of the sea. You'll keep hearing these things, okay? And I was trying to connect this. And then I saw this old photograph of Limassol. And I said, what city's that? And the guy says, Limassol. I said, that's not Limassol. I mean, this city's got its back to the sea. Okay? And I'm really puzzled over this photograph, which was not taken that long ago. It was like maybe 80, 90 years ago. And then I spoke to this poet, and he said the following thing to me. He said, the day that Limassol turned to face the city smiled, and the sea smiled back. And I got it. Okay? I got it. Met die Mia. Oops. Eureka. And I published that blog, which is, and the sea smiled back. Okay? And I was gauging responses, and I saw what was happening. I mean, I'm researching, I'm involving, I'm researching, I'm checking things out. I'm not working in a vacuum, right? I'm out there. You know, I'm talking to a lot of people. And I knew I was on the right track. I knew absolutely I was on the right track. And then, you know, thinking about the sea and the characteristics of the Limassol people, and if anybody here is Limisianos, you'll understand what I'm talking about. These are people who are open. They've got a horizon, they've got imagination, they're very accepting, they are incredibly extrovert, they're energetic, full of movement, dynamic, outward looking, and they've always got a smile on their face. They're people who work hard and they play hard. Anybody here from Limassol? Nobody. And then I did this logo. That's the sea, that's the land, and that's the shape of the bay. There's the beach, but it's also a smile. And you want to wink, so I put a wink in. Okay? And that became the project logo. So this whole thing grew organically by talking with the community. It was not me being some smart guy. I was connecting dots, nothing more. We then ran a couple of ads, which were sponsored by a local media company, and we invited people to come and join us on Facebook. And the headline is saying exactly what we want to say. It's our city, our project, our future. Polimas, Ergomas, Melonmas. Give some kind of explanation as to the project. And people started coming onto Facebook. And the discussion started. Okay? So there's the Facebook page. And it's been a very active Facebook page. Then you get suggestions happening. Like somebody says, hey, why don't you make some email footers? And we'll all put them on our emails. Cool. It's communication. People are buying the idea, they're getting into it, they're adopting it as their own, right? So that starts going out there. Then they want posters, they want postcards, and you just give this stuff out and you start sharing. And you're getting feedback and you're creating alignment. This, to me, is how branding should be, because branding is everything. It is not an ad campaign. I don't think Limassol will ever have to advertise itself. It'll create that magnetic pull that soft power creates when a city really is welded together. This, by the way, was an idea. It hasn't happened, it will happen soon, where we've got Volkswagen to sponsor some bins where as you throw paper in, because there's a garbage issue, the bin starts whistling, right? So it encourages people to dispose of garbage. It's wonderful stuff. The sea smiled back. Okay. So that's the Limassol project in a nutshell. If anybody wants more information, you know, I'm happy to share anything on that. You can come to the Facebook page and check out what's happening. Chicken and egg, the whole issue with branding. Do you first build a great product and then build a brand around it? Or does a great brand help you to build a great product? There are different ways to look at it. Dubai has built a great product. Okay? India is a little different. India really is as incredible as their tourist board promotes. This comes from a magazine, by the way, a journalist said this. This amazing society who are generally so happy, loving, and generous in spirit. It is so imperfect, yet so beautiful in so many ways. It is a sharp contrast to many who are stressed about being perfect in every way. A perfection they know they can never really achieve, but spend their lives striving for. Here there is no such thing as perfection. It all depends on how you think about life and how you enjoy the fundamental means of fulfillment. In its advertising, India sees itself, right? This, to me, is the stuff, okay? Because it's real, okay? This is the stuff. It is so imperfect, yet so beautiful in so many ways. In its advertising, India sees itself. Do I have sound here?
Boat acha.
India, incredible India.
To me, that's benchmark stuff. It's benchmark. It's benchmark stuff. After the speech that I gave in Thessaloniki in November, where I have proposed that Greece has the opportunity of actually becoming the apple of the Mediterranean, it's received quite a bit of attention. This over here is from Figaro, where they talk about my dream. And this over here is from Kathimerini, where Nick Malkoutsi says, rebranding Greece as the apple of the Mediterranean. It's a crazy idea. In fact, it's an idea that's just about crazy enough to succeed. And I'd like to just give you some of my thinking behind this, because I think it's a golden opportunity. First of all, I think it's terribly important that we understand the lesson that comes out of that India commercial. It's not about being perfect. It's not about being perfect. We'd make terrible Germans. We're Greeks. The only thing we can do is become exceptional Greeks. Exceptional Greeks, and that we can do. And by the way, that's exactly what I'd say to you in this city as well, right? Become exceptional. Volonitis, how do you say it? Become exceptional. That's what it's all about. By the way, a couple of potholes are not a problem. And you know something? The dogs are cool. They're not lions. I was incredibly fortunate to be in the right place at the right time and to get put onto a team that worked with Steve Jobs with the relaunch of Apple. At the time, I was the head of worldwide clients at TBWA in New York. By the way, the T is a Greek, Bill Tragos. He started this incredible agency. Absolute Vodka was the most famous client of this agency. And I was on that team, and you know, it was a challenge. 1997, Apple was bankrupt. I am not exaggerating. Okay? The stock was trading at $5 on the NASDAQ. $5. I thought that, you know, I had some money lying around, so I bought some stock. And I thought as a genius, I doubled my money a year later. If I'd kept it, okay, I bought that stock, there was $100,000 worth, $62 million today. That's how much that company's grown in 14, 15 years. Okay? It's remarkable. It's the second most valuable company in the world after General Electric. I'm going to show you a piece of advertising that we did. I'm not going to say to you that this piece of advertising took the stock price up the way it did. What I am going to say to you is that without these values having been put firmly in place, right, Apple would not have done it. There's no doubt about that. This campaign was designed to do two things. Number one, to reignite the belief that Apple themselves had about themselves, and to make sure that the people who really championed the brand, the crazy guys like me who've never used anything but Apple in their life, would not leave Apple. Okay? Here's the campaign. Microphone down.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, but the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
I want to read this to you. Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They are not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, about the only thing you can't do is ignore them. Does anybody recognize themselves inside there? That's the Greek DNA, huh? 100%. We are the crazy ones. We are the misfits. We are the rebels. We are the round pegs. We are the ones who don't obey rules. That's us. Look at the next bit. Because they change things. They push the human race forward. While some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. By the way, that's the other part of our DNA, which we've kind of forgotten about. Let's be crazy, okay? This is a blog that I wrote about 2 years ago. By the way, people who know me know that I've been saying this stuff for years. This is not anything new. Greece is on the verge of bankruptcy, but we're not a bankrupt nation. We're Greeks. People with power to imagine, people with the intelligence to turn imagination into reality. We imagined democracy. We imagined the Acropolis. Now it's time to imagine the future. Okay? When I was invited to attend this conference, it was back in December, I think, that we first spoke. Am I right? Maybe January. I was like totally delighted. And then I met with you guys, and we had that great meeting, I remember, in Athens. And I really think that this kind of thing, where you're imagining the future of the city, is exactly it. It's exactly it. Γίνεται. Really, we can do it. Γίνεται. And I have to finish with that slide. because γίνεται. Thank you very much.